Okay, guys, session 7 has some cool stuff. Any of you guys that grew up watching Back to the Future, you'll know the DeLorean, the car. Once this thing goes 85 miles an hour or whatever. So I was always obsessed with the DeLorean when I was a kid. And I would always wonder, like, how come you can't really have them now? How come people aren't driving them around now? And reading this book, we find out, right? This John DeLorean guy, I think he said he worked for General Motors. I can't remember where, but he was a genius, dude. Like, amazing. So when he left that company, he made his own company, the DeLorean Company, and made those cars the DeLoreans. Funny story, they don't actually time travel. That was just for the movie. But then you wonder, how come there's none around now? Well, we find out with the book, right? It's because he was a genius, but he was a terrible leader. Terrible. He was driven by ego. He didn't care about like what was pragmatic, what was efficient, what was manageable. He just thought that everybody should just listen to whatever he had to say and everything would be great. You don't lead people that way, you guys. You may be great at what you do, but if what you did wasn't leading people and now you're in a position to lead people, you need to practice a completely different set of skills. It reminds me of when I would run like student councils and all the kids wanted all this crazy, let's go to Disneyland and have pizza every Friday. And I'm sitting there running the council and I'm like, well, how are we going to pay for this? How is it going to work? And then you kind of have to almost stomp on people's dreams. But as leaders, we got to make them see that things have to be efficient. They have to be manageable in order for the company to be successful. So just some cool stuff on John DeLorean there. And we can talk about that more in session or whatever. Second part, I love this, The Disease of Me. I believe it was Pat Riley with the Heat. It could have been with the Heat. I forget. I'd have to go back and look. But basically when sports teams start winning, so let's say, like, for example, the Seattle Seahawks, like in the 2010s or whatever, they were really good. They had their quarterback on a rookie contract, Russell Wilson. They won the Super Bowl, but they couldn't keep that success going because players didn't care about winning the Super Bowl as much as they cared about their next contract. And everybody wants to get paid, so you can't keep that team together. So what happens is when an organization sees success, people start to think, I deserve a little bit more. And that's the disease of me. And that's what we have to be careful of at Pest Pros. At Pest Pros, we see everybody winning. And it's good when we feel like we're a part of that. But then when we start thinking, yeah, but I need a second car. Or, I need a raise for this or for that. Or they don't know what I do. It's our job as leaders to keep that from sinking in among our guys, to keep them locked into the big group vision, to be more like a New England Patriot than a Seattle Seahawk. Or maybe sports teams are a bad example for somebody fighting that disease because everybody's trying to get paid, We have to keep them locked into the mission. And we can talk more about that in session. Finally, for this one, it's kind of look at the immensity of nature. I had a struggle kind of like connecting this to our practice at Pest Pros, but I guess what I'd like you guys brainstorming is how can we get people to understand how big our vision and our mission is. Like if you look at a sunset, or I went to Yosemite a few months back, and just to see the sun come up and strike El Capitan, it's just amazing. You feel so small, but you also feel big because you're part of that universe. I'd like to design ways to get guys feeling that throughout the day. And maybe that's giving them time to reflect. Maybe it's connecting more to our missions and what we're trying to do. I'll leave that up to you guys. Maybe we can talk about it in class. But just some cool thoughts. I love the DeLorean stuff, man. The Disease of Me is really cool. We'll talk about this all more in class. Thanks, guys.